At exactly 12:07 a.m., when the world was quiet and the streetlights hummed like they were half asleep, a sharp knock hit the door of a small rental house. Not a friendly knock, not a casual one, the kind that makes your heart stop because nothing good ever comes knocking at midnight. Mark froze in the hallway, his socked feet cold against the floor, his phone buzzing with a missed call he hadn't noticed earlier. In the next room, his 6-year-old daughter Lily coughed softly in her sleep. Mark swallowed hard and whispered to himself, "Please, not tonight." Before we begin, if stories about kindness, real-life struggles, and unexpected moments of humanity move you, make sure to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is your channel name, and your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories like this to life. Mark Ellis wasn't supposed to be awake at midnight. He had worked a double shift at the warehouse, skipped dinner, and come home exhausted. Being a single dad didn't leave room for rest. It left room for survival. 2 years earlier, his wife had passed away suddenly from a brain aneurysm. One moment she was laughing in the kitchen, the next she was gone. Overnight, Mark became everything: father, mother, provider, comforter, and disciplinarian, all while working a job that barely covered rent. That night, Lily had a fever, not high enough for the ER, but high enough that Mark kept checking her forehead every hour. He'd called his boss earlier to explain why he might be late the next morning. No answer. He left a voicemail instead. Now someone was at his door. Mark looked through the peephole and felt his stomach drop. It was his boss, David Reynolds, mid-40s, clean-cut, always calm, always distant. The kind of man who spoke politely but never personally. The kind of boss who reminded everyone, "We're a family here," but left exactly at 5. Mark opened the door slowly. "Mr. Reynolds?" he said, confused and embarrassed all at once. Is something wrong?" David stood there in a dark jacket, no tie, his expression unreadable. "You didn't pick up your phone," he said. "I'm sorry," Mark replied quickly. "My daughter's sick. I must have missed—" David raised a hand. "Can I come in?" Mark stepped aside, panic flooding his chest. This was it. He'd missed too many days, asked for too many favors. He already knew how this story ended. Inside, the house was modest. Second-hand furniture, toys neatly stacked in the corner, a couch that sagged in the middle. The air smelled faintly of children's cough syrup and laundry detergent. David glanced around but said nothing. "I know it's late," Mark began, his voice tight. "If this is about work, I can explain. I'll make up the hours. I promise. David turned to him suddenly. "Say that again," he said. Mark blinked. I said I can make up the hours." David stepped closer, his eyes locking onto Mark's. "No, the part after that. Say it again. But look at me." Mark's throat tightened, his hands shook. He whispered, "I'm trying my best." The silence that followed was heavy. Too heavy. Then David exhaled slowly and sat down on the couch. "I know," he said quietly. Mark stared at him, unsure if he'd heard correctly. David leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I know you are." For the first time since Mark had met him, David Reynolds didn't look like a boss. He looked tired. Human. "I lost my wife too," David continued. 15 years ago. Car accident. I had a son who was 4 at the time. Mark's eyes widened. "I didn't sleep for a year," David said. "Every sound made me jump. Every bill felt like a threat. And I thought if I didn't keep it together, everything would fall apart." Mark felt his chest tighten. He hadn't cried in front of anyone since the funeral. Not once. "I heard your voicemail," David said. "I was about to ignore it. Thought I'd deal with it in the morning." He paused. "But then I remembered the nights I wished someone would just show up and ask if I was okay." Mark's voice broke. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." David shook his head. "You didn't." Just then, Lily stirred and called out weakly, "Daddy?" Mark rushed to her room, David following quietly. Lily's cheeks were flushed, her hair stuck to her forehead. Mark lifted her gently and she clung to him. David watched, his eyes softening. "She looks just like her mom," Mark said quietly. David nodded. "My son did too." Back in the living room, David reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "I didn't come here to fire you," he said. "I came to do this." Inside was a check. Mark's breath caught. "Sir, I can't, it's not charity," David said firmly. "It's paid leave, 2 weeks, full pay, no overtime required afterward. And starting next month, your schedule changes, day shift only." Mark felt his knees weaken. "Why?" David met his eyes again. "Because someone once did this for me. And because kindness only works if we pass it on." Tears spilled down Mark's face before he could stop them. He covered his mouth, ashamed. "Hey," David said gently. "There's no shame in being human." Before leaving, David knelt in front of Lily and smiled. "Take care of your dad," he said softly. She nodded sleepily. Weeks later, Mark returned to work stronger, steadier. He volunteered when others struggled. He covered shifts without being asked. He listened. One afternoon, he noticed a new hire sitting alone during lunch, staring at his phone with worry etched on his face. Mark sat beside him and asked, "You okay?" The man hesitated, then said, "I'm trying my best." Mark smiled gently. "I know," he said, and in that small moment, kindness continued its quiet journey. Sometimes kindness doesn't come as applause or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes as a knock at midnight, a pause, a look in the eyes, and a reminder that none of us are alone. If this story touched you, take it with you today. Look at someone, listen fully, offer kindness when it's least expected. You never know how deeply it might change a life.